Mattel's preferences and just how they feel in general about Cars 3 has become so very clear over the last couple years. Take the Lightning McQueen variants. They started off 2017, 18, 19, giving us pretty much any McQueen variant we could ask for from that movie, including, of course, Lightning McQueen as Chester Whipplefilter, which they did multiple variants of. We'll get into all of that later on in the video. But as time has gone on, they have narrowed down their pool of Cars 3 Lightning McQueens to just about Rust-eze Lightning McQueen and Fabulous Lightning McQueen. They don't even release the main Florida 500 version with the flame paint job, like the first version of McQueen that came out for Cars 3. They don't really do that one anymore. They don't do Chester Whipplefilter McQueen anymore. They don't do Rust-eze Racing Center McQueen. It's actually pretty crazy that they have just narrowed it down so much to Rust-eze and Fabulous, and maybe one other if you're lucky. No Primer McQueen, of course not. That's another forlorn release at this point. But I recently came into possession of this Thailand variant of Lightning McQueen's Chester Whipplefilter from 2019, a variant that I have not reviewed yet. Obviously, like I said, it's a pretty cool one. He's caked, he's covered in mud, he's awesome. A lot of people are kind of forgetting about him these days, so I thought, why not revisit him, but also dabble in something new with the Thailand variant here. So let's just dive right on into it. Yeah, this came out of a 2019 case. I think it was in the first half of the year in the spring. I will leave the link to the original case video in the description below if that exists even, because I wasn't able to unbox cases during that time. They just weren't available. GetMeCollecitlbes was not getting them in, I don't believe. But yeah, this is kind of nostalgic at this point, seeing the artwork here in this small of the window. I have to say, I like Red Riders better than this package design because we were coming off of 2017, that was still relatively fresh, in which we got pretty much this, but covering the entire card, and obviously it said Cars 3, not just Cars. I think that's cool and all of that, but it had run its course, so for it to be still sticking around into 2019 here, and then just making it so the car itself is so small in this little desert window, desert horizon, as we all refer to it as. I coined that term, by the way. I'm not a big fan of this design. I'm glad it went away in favor of what I think to be one of the better ones. Well, Blue Desert was fine, but the 2021, no, that's what we call Desert Horizon. 2021 was Desert Horizon. This was just whatever. But this is one of the last years, 2020 was, but one of the last years where they still had series. Obviously, this guy is in the Thunder Hollow series. I love the little icons they did. The figure 8 for the Demolition Derby. On the back here, the card backs, though, have to be some of the most detailed you'll find because you get an image, you get a frame from the movie itself showing really some of the characters. I don't think, honestly, any of these characters except for Miss Fritter were even released during this time in this series, being Patty, Bill, Sigler. But, it is a pretty good image identifying what is going on at the Thunder Hollow. You get the description. It's Crazy 8 Night at Thunder Hollow Speedway. The descriptions got shorter and shorter as the years went on, so we kind of knew what was all coming. It's descriptions get shorter, they remove the frame of the movie from the back of the package, then series go away entirely. At least now, though, we get 7 cars on the card back instead of just these 4, but these 4 are pretty awesome. You get Kevin Riven, Todd Crash, Mo Revlin, and Blind Spot, all of whom very rare. I think Blind Spot, maybe not quite as much Todd Crash, but Mo Revlin, I think, is definitely up there. Kevin probably as well. It's insane how, these aren't even that old. 2019, 6 years ago, and then some. But the cars have certainly appreciated in value as supply has dwindled. But yeah, very nice, very nice. Lightning McQueen as Chester Whipplefilter. And that's right, guys. We're going to open this guy up. Even him himself, I think this ran me $20, and that was a good deal. This is probably a $30 car on average if you want him from Thailand. Here he is out of the packaging, looking really good. I think the expression is a lot more similar to the Chinese version than I thought he would be. And I do have to clarify, as there are a couple Chinese variants of him. This is the first one that came out in 2017 in that 2-pack. Really a 3-pack with Luigi and Guido with the little rag. A really obscure release. That Guido with the rag has to be one of the most forlorn releases ever, if we're on the topic of forlorn releases. It's gotta be. But yeah, before we get into the comparison, there he is in the movie, Mr. Whipplefilter at the Demolition Derby, trying to get some practice in. McQueen, you should have done some better research on this. You had to have vetted this place a little bit better, because this is absolutely not what you want to turn into an utter disaster, but definitely a fun scene in the movie. Gave us a lot to chew on in terms of the racers, which Mattel, fortunately, have released all of them now. Just took a cancellation of Fair Game, and fortunately he came out, and then some and then some. And yeah, we've even gotten some of the fans in the background. Not all of them, but a good, amount, all things considered, I would say. So yeah, right off the bat, you could tell that the shades of brown are a little bit different. And also, the Thailand version is a matte finish instead of Chinese's glossy finish. He now has an eye plate that has a plastic piece in there instead of the eyes being a part of the main metal body. And, that is pretty typical of all Thailand releases. Not all, most Thailand releases. But yeah, they really didn't change up the expression that much. They added the eyeliner, that black line with the little shadow. It looks fine. I wish they changed up the expression and matched, this other variant that I will show you guys here. I'll just tease you with it right now, but this expression is so much better. Yeah, because the models pretty much stayed the same. I do like, the matte finish looks way better than the glossy finish. Like, this mud just looks too shiny on the Chinese version. A little, alarmingly shiny. Something's wrong. On the sides here, you obviously have the 15 that was carved out of the 95, or just, with Guido's rag, he was able to wipe away the mud to make it look like his number 15. Pretty cool. Pretty creative, I would say, how they set up this scenario in the movie. I think, yeah, Luigi, that's another release they haven't done, is like the Muddy Luigi, because he's the one that kind of sprayed all the mud onto McQueen. Luigi and Guido really giving all of themselves to McQueen during this adventure. They were the only townies, besides Mac, of course, that stuck with the entire trip. They were there from start to finish. It's pretty cool how they had a little bit more of an inflated role in Cars 3 that a lot of people don't talk about. But yes, everything is mud. The base is mud, the tires are mud, everything's brown. And yeah, that makes sense though. You could feel the ripples, the texture in the mud. Always been one of my favorite things about them. You do feel it a little bit more on the Chinese version. I'd say the Thailand one is a little smoother. Both have plastic plates in here for the windows. So it was really just the eyes that changed the structural model of the car. Gas cap there on the side. Let me guess the date stamp for this guy. This was a day one release. Oh, I'm not sure. Maybe I got this one early. I don't know if I got this one early. I'm going to guess he was still made in 2017. I'm going to say, though, he was 0417. 0, so that would be the 41st day of 2017. 016. All right, not too bad. Not too bad. The 16th day of 2017 at the EA factory. And then this guy here was made on the 3rd day of, I think that would be 2019. Yeah, that would have to be. 3rd day of 2018 would make no sense. That would be way too soon. So yeah, not too shabby at all. But if you guys remember, they came out with the Walmart exclusive series, at least here in North America, Canada, Mexico, the US, where the Demolition Derby racers, or a select few of them, got released with rubber tires and an accessory for a couple extra bucks. Pretty cool, because this is how we first got characters like Bill, Liability, Airborne, and Superfly. Maybe one other that I'm forgetting at the moment right now, but they were all released, and that was like I said, the only way you could get those characters was through this rubber tire line. I thought it was awesome. Like, I was very excited when they came out. Now, granted, as time went on, all those characters ended up getting released from Thailand, just regular, so it's not like they stayed exclusive to this rubber tire line. But what did stay exclusive is this expression variant of Lightning McQueen as Chester Whipplefilter. And I think it's just way better. This one to me just looks a little too robotic, a little too like unnatural, a little stiff. And then here it really exemplifies the scene and the emotion within the scene, where McQueen is very uneasy, very on edge, very nervous as to what's about to happen, and also just a little confused here. Now, the models are pretty much the same, but obviously the eyes are what's different. And this is also where they gave him his first matte finish. So they realized, and this was with all Demolition Derby racers, like literally all of them, Miss Fritter included, Dr. Damage included, some of the first racers, like the smaller ones, Sigalert, Taco, who I have right here. Like, Taco was first released with glossy paint, Miss Fritter as well. And then they started to release them all, you know, on their second goes, or in the case of Sigalert, variant, you know, between cases, where now you have a matte finish. So for Chester Whipplefilter McQueen here, the matte finish came in this rubber tire release, not like there was no variant of this guy with a matte finish. There was no like future two-pack case where he was included in a matte finish. No. It was this rubber tire release that came later in the year. Everything else, though, is the same. Obviously, though, he does have the rubber tires. Believe me, I mean, they do look a little different. They are not that rubbery. Like, they are not as soft as those late 2010s piston or 2000s piston cup racers, where, you know, they are soft, right? And you could almost like tear through the rubber with your fingernail. They're a lot more hardened. Yeah, still a cool release. And so I was hoping, you know, when Thailand made McQueen's Chester Whipplefilter, they would use this expression, but nope, they went back to the original expression. Now, continuing on with the lore, Mattel decided to release another Lightning McQueen as Chester Whipplefilter in this rubber tire Demolition Derby line, and it is the exact same. You can maybe if you really want to find a difference, I'm sure you'll find a difference. But the cars themselves are the exact same. The difference was the accessories. The first time he was released with barrels, you know, the flaming barrels that, you know, was very common. They were in some of the other cars as well. However, the second time he got released, the accessory happens to be one of the best ever. Like, I think this is honestly one of the best plastic accessories ever. It's this really cool Crash and Bash N2O Cola sign. This does appear in the movie, like a version of it. I just think it's awesome, you know, to kind of mix the Piston Cup with the Demolition Derby. They're using the Parker Breakston branding for N2O Cola here, so I like that consistency. You know, it's not like the Demolition Derby's keeping up with all the new branding and they would have the next gen logo. No, this makes perfect sense. I love it. It fits in with the universe. It feels like it belongs. And for Mattel to make it, pretty cool. One caveat though, one little catch is like, oh, it was only released in Canada. Yeah, so the second wave of these rubber tire releases had Jimbo, Fishtail, and McQueen's Chester Whipplefilter, only released in Canada at Walmart. So a very rare set. I think, you know, they're not all that expensive if you want to go out and get them, because, you know, people can get Fishtail and Jimbo in other ways, but the only way to get them with the rubber tires is that pack. And their accessories were pretty basic. I think it was like a stack of tires and the flaming barrels again. So that is all the lore on Lightning McQueen's Chester Whipplefilter. He's been released twice in the rubber tire line with this really nice expression. And then besides that, he's always had this more just stiff expression. I think Thailand actually makes it look a little bit better with the eyeliner. And because there's no decals to make blurry, I'm going to say that this is one of the cases where the Thailand variant is better than the Chinese one. It's not often we say that, but when there's no decals to muck up and make blurry, you have the matte finish. The expression looks a little bit better, albeit it's now a plastic eye plate. It's hard to go wrong. So those are my thoughts on Lightning McQueen as Chester Whipplefilter from Thailand. And yeah, what the hell else? Let's just have some fun, guys. Go through some other dirty McQueens, starting with the first dirty McQueen. Well, not actually. Here's the first dirty McQueen. Dirt Track Lightning McQueen. Not a great release. You know, at the time it was pretty cool. But let's be real. It's got like some dust on the side, nothing on the front, nothing on the back, no Rust-eze logo on the spoiler. He is in a matte finish. I will give Mattel credit for that. And then just complete, you know, brown on the wheels, tires, and the base there. But this is technically the first time they released like a quote-unquote dirty version of Lightning McQueen. Then in 2010, in the Final Lap collection, we got Muddy Lightning McQueen, which is now one of the rarest, if not the rarest, dirty McQueen. He was only released once. And yeah, he's like probably a $100 car if you want to get him in the package. In 2013, they released Nature Drive Lightning McQueen. I wanted to say Nature Valley based on the granola bars, but it's not. It's Nature Drive, who I like to call Leafy Lightning McQueen. Like, let's just be honest, Nature Drive is just doesn't really convey what we want to know. He's got the tar on him there too still. This is a really cool version of McQueen, only released once in 2013. Then, of course, you have your Rust-eze Racing Center, your Muddy Rust-eze Racing Center Lightning McQueen. So this is basically Chester Whipplefilter after he got hosed down by Mr. Drippy there. This was first released in 2020. So you could see, you know, only from Thailand and Vietnam, which I will show you the Vietnam version of this in a moment. But yeah, this is like half of a Chester Whipplefilter McQueen. Another really good one. Like, I like the expression a lot. You know, the mix of the water and the mud looks really good. The tires are super detailed, but we're not here to talk about him. And then for whatever reason, when Vietnam made him, they turned his frown upside down and made it this awkward like smile. I don't think it looks horrible. They accentuated the water a little bit more. I'm still not a big fan. Yeah, this is the Vietnam version. Yeah, still not a big fan. They did release this guy in 2020. I think it was either 2 or 3. I think it was 2023. Yeah, I think it was 2023. They released this guy again from Thailand on Red Riders, one of the rarest Red Riders releases that year, in fact. And then you get Lightning McQueen Deputy Hazard with the slime here. A little bit of a different liquid, a little bit of a different substance on Lightning McQueen than we're used to, but still dirty. All right, guys, let me know in the comment section below. Out of all those Lightning McQueens, who is your favorite? You could also let me know, do you prefer the Chinese version or the Thailand version here? If you prefer the Chinese version, which one is it? Is it the better expression? I think we could objectively maybe agree on that. And yeah, guys, thanks as always for tuning in. I will see you soon for another video. Bye now. One point I forgot to make, I just have to point this out of the spirit of thoroughness. Lightning McQueen's Chester Whipplefilter uses the Cars 1 model when we know that almost everything since Cars 3, especially if it's a Cars 3 release, uses that newer slimmed down model. And so you have Muddy Rust-eze Racing Center McQueen in the slimmer model, and you have Lightning McQueen's Chester Whipplefilter minutes before he looks like this in the wider model. So is it really that much mud making him look this fatter? Did he lose all that weight running around in the demo derby, or what? How did Mattel screw it up that badly? Why did they change the model in the first place? If you are going to change it, be consistent. Why is this one not in that model? It frustrates me. It keeps me up at night, but just had to let you guys know about that if you didn't already know.